Hello, welcome to the Dirty Truth. My name is Benjamin Harris. This video will be a response to a challenge for Mr. Kent Hovind that was posted by Professor Dave. Okay, I'm going to answer some of the questions that Professor Dave posed for Mr. Hovind, Dr. Hovind, and then I'm going to challenge you to a debate. Let's see if you can keep up. All right, the Bible verses that you quoted in your challenge are invalid. They have no modern relevance in today's age. All right, so a lot of them were based on slavery. So, I mean, there's not slavery today. That's just as in the 1700s, slave laws are invalid now. We had slave laws in the 1700s in the United States that told you how you were supposed to own slaves. That's not valid today. So, I mean, that's a very cowardly misdirection attempt. Okay. Also, you didn't mention anything from Genesis, probably because it's the history of how everything started, according to the one who actually created it, God. All right. That second statement is very relevant to this discussion, because if you ever manage to actually get to evolution, you'll actually understand how it works. Okay. All right. So the Bible says in the beginning God created, and science says in the beginning, I don't know. This isn't even a debatable topic for you, as the whole of scientific community of the world agrees and teaches this. Okay, as the Big Bang, right? So what that means is anything from the singularity on, because the singularity is a theory. They don't know. They can't explain it. All right. Anything from that on is based on faith. Science is a religion and observes the God-made laws of the universe. Even the word universe means a single spoken verse. Okay. So, was the singularity very hot and dense or very cold and dense? So remember, you got to be careful on your words here, because science says that it was hot and dense. It was infinitely dense and infinitely hot, right? Okay. That's a contradiction, because science also says that density is inversely related to its temperature. So if you side with science, you look stupid, and if you don't, then you look religious and stupid. So be careful. Okay. All right. So then you got inflation. Oh, this is all make-believe. All right. So inflation started at between 10 to the negative 36 seconds to 10 to the negative 33 seconds, and it's make-believe. All right, this theory leads you to believe all matter expanded faster than light. Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, disproves this. You can't move matter faster than light. All right, that's provable. All right, now you can say light or energy from the Big Bang moved faster than light, but that's not matter. The matter didn't. Okay. So energy or light is a relationship where it comes from the work between matter. So there's work done in matter, and then that produces heat or light energy, right? That can be expanded faster than light, but it can't turn into matter. Okay. So whenever you slow down light, which they can in a lab, or whenever you cool down a temperature, it doesn't turn into stuff. Okay, so to explain the cosmic background radiation, science has to overlook E equals mc squared and the fact that it's broken. All right, so would you agree with science that everything from inflation back to the singularity is largely speculation? Because it isn't until 10 to the negative 12 seconds that the universe has energies that can be approximately replicated. All right, so we can't do any kind of experiments before 10 to the negative 12 seconds. So everything is, you just have to have faith that it's going to work, or you have to come up with a theory that you can't test. All right. So would you agree that it's largely speculation? All right. So now one of my favorite questions is the temperature problem. In the first second of the universe, the singularity went from 1 decillion Kelvin, that's 1 times 10 to the 33rd power, that's a 1 with 33 zeros behind it, all right, down to 5 billion Kelvin. for starters, what did this insanely hot temperature dissipate into? How did it cool off? All right, and then second, why did it take an additional 100 million years to go from 5 billion Kelvin to between 100 and 0 degrees, or 273 to 373 Kelvin? Right? That's an additional 3.1536 times 10 to the 15th seconds. That's how many seconds are in 100 million years. So in 1 second, it went from a 1 with 33 zeros behind it. That's 1 decillion degrees Kelvin down to 5 billion Kelvin in 1 second. And then 100 million years to go from that to 0 makes no sense at all. All right. I would love to debate you on evolution on any platform you wish, because I can very easily destroy your argument. Problem is, we have to have a starting place that we both agree on. So I propose we start right here. You would say only science counts in the debate, and I would agree. Second thing we have to agree on is science is based on faith, because let's face it, you'll never answer those questions that I just proposed, right? Now, because we agree, because we both agree science is based on faith, I would argue provable scientific facts based on God did it, and you can argue there is no God and chance did it. These are two different worldviews that look at the same evidence but come to different conclusions. If you agree to this debate, I will prove God does in fact exist and did create everything. So to get all the way down to evolution, based on science is based in faith, you would also have to agree this applies to planetary evolution, because just like the Big Bang, no planets or stars have ever been observed forming. Okay? And this applies to chemical evolution, as life must come from non-living materials, and this has never been observed or done in a lab. Now, once you have agreed that all of science is based in faith, I will then give you the exact definition of what a kind is. And see, this is the problem that you have with Hovind. Nobody wants to define what a kind is. I will give you a firm definition of what a kind is, and it will destroy evolution. All right? So to be very clear, I will give you the same two options that you gave Kent. I'm actually going to give you a third option that you're probably not going to take, but the first two options are just like you gave Kent. Okay, so agree science is based on faith, and then debate me on the two worldviews, right? Or just give up and forfeit the debate. Okay? Because you're not going to win. All right. The third one is you can deny science is based on faith, and then answer the questions that I proposed to start with, to include everything from the singularity to the origins of life. Okay? So if you can answer the singularity questions that was proposed to start with in the beginning of this, and then you can also answer the origins of life, then after you've been awarded, several different Nobel Prizes, then I'll debate you, and I'll still prove God did it. And you can even have your Nobel Prizes in the background, be like, oh, look at my Nobel Prizes, oh, God still did it. That's what you're going to come up, that's how it's going to conclude. So this is my prediction, all right? This is what you're probably going to do. You're going to probably start with the third option first, and you're going to fail miserably, because all of science is trying to do that right now. Everybody is trying to figure out the singularity for the Big Bang, and everybody is trying to figure out the origins of life. All of that kind of stuff comes together, but you got to start somewhere. You got to start at the Big Bang. That's where everything came from. Okay? So you're going to fail there. All right, second, you'll attempt some misdirection on the illusion that science isn't based on faith. Again, failing miserably. Because if you can't explain the singularity, or if you can't explain the origins of life, that means that you have faith that these theories are correct. You can't prove them, so you have to say it's based in faith. Okay? Finally, you'll either just give up and forfeit because you know that I've won and God did it, or you'll give in just a little bit and admit science is based in faith just so we can have a debate, only to still get destroyed. All right, so you're going to be destroyed because I'm going to give you a solid definition of what a kind is, and it can be proven. All right, this is where evolution breaks down. Whenever you define what a kind is. Okay. All right, so the debate format, just like for Dr. Hovind, right? There'll be 5 questions. Okay, same rules apply. Any attempt to change the subject will be disqualification for either one of us. So we're going to start with question 1, and we're going to debate that topic. We're going to stay in that topic. If you try to change the subject, disqualified, you lose. If I try to change the subject, disqualified, I lose. All right. Any attempt to deliberately misrepresent science will be disqualification. So if you jump into something that say that and you say this is a fact, then you have to tell me what your fact is based on. This goes to your worldview. Okay. And we're going to get to that on the very first question. Okay. And then the responses must be rooted in scientific fact, of course, and it's based on your worldviews. So your worldview is probably going to be like God doesn't exist and chance did it. And my worldview is going to be God did it, and this is why we know that. Okay. So only being able to use your idiotic worldview, and see how condescending I am. This is how you talk to Dr. Hovind. Okay. Only being able to use your idiotic worldview as it relates to science, you will have to make some attempt to answer the question. After which, I will point out your monumental failure, and then we will move on to the next question, and I'll do it again. So, here's the 5 questions, okay? And don't worry, what is a kind is going to be in here. Okay, so since you started with the Bible for Dr. Hovind, I'm going to start with epistemology, for you. All right. So epistemology is the definition is the study of or a theory of the nature and grounds of knowledge, especially with reference to its limits and validity. Okay. So what this means is this question is how do you know what you know? Or how do we know what we know? How does science know what it knows, right? So it's this is the very foundation of any argument that's going to give any kind of a truth statement, okay? I stand on the Bible, which is the written word of God, okay? And it's provable. We're going to get to that. All right, so that's going to be the very first question, okay? And because you brought it up when in your challenge for Dr. Hovind, this is the basis for morality. Okay. Now remember, you brought up morality, and it fits into the question number 1. So, with your worldview of evolution, I want you to take the evolutionary worldview and then explain why Hitler was evil. Why was it wrong for Hitler to have done what he did based on the evolutionary worldview? You can't do it. All right. Before you try to respond to that, I'm going to send a shout out. Secrets atheists never admit. You probably should watch that video. Okay. That's gonna explain to you how to answer this question, and that you're going to fail miserably just on the first question. All right. Number 2, how the universe got started from T0. So from time T is time, T equals 0. So from the singularity, how did everything kick off? Now remember, if you attempt to deliberately misrepresent science, you're disqualified, and by default you lose. All right. So right here is where I'm going to be nice. Okay. I'm going to answer this one for you, and then just see if you agree. Okay. This will set the tone for the next 2 questions, and then I'll give you the definition of a kind. Okay. So this is what the Big Bang thinks. All right. This is a video. If you want to watch a video, this is Arvin Ash. How did the first atoms form? All right, so the singularity, that's supposed to be the grand unified force. So you got the strong and the weak force, nuclear force. You got the electromagnetic force, and you have gravity, all in one spot. So like this, right? But really small. Not this big, really small. Smaller than an atom. All right, so it also says that it was infinitely dense because it contains everything in the universe. So it's infinitely dense and it's infinitely hot. So do you agree right from the beginning with that statement? If you do, that statement contradicts itself. Okay? Because in physics, density is inversely related to its temperature. So it can't be infinitely dense and infinitely hot. It can be really cold and dense, but it can't be really hot and dense. Okay? So you would have to explain what was the mechanism that went from a really cold, infinitely dense object. What was the mechanism that sparked that to make it instantaneously hot so the expansion could happen? All right, you can't answer that question. Nobody can answer that question. All right, so the Planck epoch is where they actually start, and that's at 10 to the negative 43 seconds. All right, this is the smallest unit of time that can theoretically exist according to quantum mechanics. Note here, the theory predicts a singularity, but most scientists think this is incorrect. All right, and again, this comes from Arvin Ash. How did the first atoms form? He's got a beautiful timeline laid out. You really should watch that video. Okay, so the inflation, right? So right here at this point, the Planck epoch, the temperature is 1 decillion degrees. Okay, that's a 1 with 33 zeros behind it. That's how hot everything is. Okay, all right. Then you fast forward to inflation, and inflation is T equals 10 to the negative 36 seconds to T equals 10 to the negative 33 seconds. So in this time is when the universe expanded faster than light, right? Okay. Now this isn't possible, as discussed before, because of Einstein's theory of E equals mc squared disproves this. It says that you can't move matter faster than light. So there's a contradiction right there. All right. Now you fast forward to T to the negative 12 seconds. Anything prior to this is largely speculation, because this is where the universe has energies that can be approximately replicated. Okay. So everything before that is speculation. All right. So do we agree? I mean, do you agree? Do you agree with the Big Bang so far? I mean, this is what's taught. This is what they teach, right? So then so now fast forward after the inflation, T equals 10 to the negative 11 seconds. Here the temperature has cooled to a quadrillion degrees, which is still too hot for quarks to combine and form hydrogen or hadrons. So at t to the negative 12 seconds, that's when all of the quarks and the gluons started forming. Just out of nobody knows. They just started to exist, right? All right. So now fast forward to 10 to the negative 5 seconds. The temperature's cooled down to around 1 trillion Kelvin. So in this fraction of a second, the whole expanse of the universe is cooled 1,000 times cooler. All right. Now, between 10 to the negative 5 seconds and 1 second, all of the antimatter and matter particles that were formed kill each other. So in this fraction of a second, everything that was in existence, all of the elements, right, or all of the beginning stuff, the matter and the antimatter, was created, and then it killed itself. Okay. So this is what they think, that for every 10 billion antimatter particles, there were 10,000,000,001 matter particles. So you got 20 billion particles exploding, leaving one. Okay, so in this between 10 to the negative 5 seconds and 1 second, right, in that little fraction of a time, the volume of the universe was 20 billion times more than it is right now. That's what that statement says. So you got 10 billion antiparticles or antimatter particles, and then you got 10,000,000,001 matter particles. So 20 billion of them are destroyed, and one is remaining, right? So, and in that amount of time, during all this explosions, right, the temperature goes from 1 trillion degrees Kelvin to 5 billion degrees Kelvin. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. How can you explode 20 billion times the mass of the stuff that's in the universe and at the same time cool the temperature? That's counterproductive. Doesn't happen. Okay? So in the very first second, so if you answer any of these questions right here, Nobel Prize. You have Nobel Prizes hanging behind you. See what I'm saying? So in 1 second, and this is my favorite one. This is in 1 second, the universe went from 1 decillion Kelvin, 1 with 33 zeros, to 5 billion Kelvin in 1 second. Why did it then take an additional 100 million years to go from 5 billion Kelvin to 273 to 373 Kelvin? So it went from 5 billion Kelvin to 0 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit in 100 million years. Because that's when that's how cool it was when the first stars started forming. See, answer those questions. You just try it. This is why I say science is based on faith. Because you just have to believe all of that stuff is correct because they can't prove it. All right, so that's number 2. And I'll give you number 2. All you have to do is say if you agree with science or disagree with science, and then say that it is based in faith. This is why I say science is based in faith. This is the reason. Number 3, origin of life. This is the third question. What is the origin, or not origin of life, but origin of elements? All right. So what is the origin of the elements that form naturally on the periodic table? So the same exact format of how I just destroyed the Big Bang will also be done with the origin of elements. Okay? So what's the origin of elements? How do we get the elements that we see that naturally form on the periodic table? You got the science background, right? You should know how these elements form, because I know you're going to say stardust, and that's going to screw up your timeline for evolution. You can't say stardust, because now we're going to get into stuff like how do you radiometrically date stuff on Earth, and you're going to say, oh, like uranium-235 or uranium-238. Well, where did uranium-238 come from? It came from a supernova explosion in a massive star that's probably now a neutron star, right? It wasn't created in the core of the star. There's not enough energy. It's created in the explosion of the supernova. That's where the energy comes from to fuse those elements. And there's not been enough time in 13 billion years. There hasn't been enough stars, that have exploded, but there hasn't been enough time for there to have been enough of the right kind of stars to make enough of the right kind of elements in close enough proximity to the Earth for that stuff to be on the Earth. So, right there, I'm going to rip that apart. It's going to hurt your feelings, because you can't answer that question. You have to agree that you take that on faith. Now, if you just take that on faith, we can skip the question. Okay? But then you have to go to, what is the origin of the moon? Where did it come from? Why is it there? So there's a couple of different theories for science. You got the capture theory, you got the daughter theory, and then you got the sister theory, right? Those are the three. Those are the three science theories of how we got the moon. The one that they kind of lean towards is the daughter theory. So big rock slams into little rock, goes into the center, pushes off some of the crust, makes rings, and forms the moon. Okay, that's kind of the accepted theory, the daughter theory. Do you agree with that? Because that doesn't give you enough time for evolution. That's going to really screw up evolution. Okay, because the moon is going to be really close if that's the case. And then it's going to slowly get farther away to where it is today. That means the tides are going to be crazy on the young Earth, trying to make all of this stuff to get life from non-living materials. Okay. Now we're going to get to what a kind is. I had to leave out the origin of life because I was only going to give you 5 questions, and you're not going to get through the first 4 anyway without just admitting that that they're based on faith. And matter of fact, the origin of life, I mean, we can throw that in there. How did life get started from non-living material? It's based on faith, right? And this is kind of, it's kind of described in what is a kind. So here's the definition of a kind. A kind is anything that can be produced by rearranging DNA to produce an animal. Okay. So what the example of this is you take DNA. So how do we know things are created? You have to have a mother, and you have to have a father. I'm talking about animals here, because some plants reproduce asexually, right? So they don't have to have a mother or father. They do it all by themselves. We're talking about animals to start with. We'll get into plants, but we're talking about animals to start. So you take a mother and a father. So you got half the DNA come from a mother, and half the DNA come from a father. So you take a mother and a father, you mix the sperm and the egg. You take that strand of DNA, this is what a kind means. Take that strand of DNA, however you can rearrange it to make another animal, that's the same kind. You have to take that egg after you've rearranged it and put it back into the mother and let it grow and then let her deliver the baby. So do you understand where I'm going with this? So it's in the DNA. What is a kind? A kind is whatever the DNA can make. So, for example, you can't take the DNA. You can't take a male dog, because I know y'all like to use dogs a lot because there's a lot of different types of dogs. You can't take a male dog and a female dog. You take the sperm and the egg and you fertilize it, and then you rearrange the DNA and then make a cat. Can't do it. They're not the same kind. You can't take a cow, right? Take a cow egg and a bull, right? Do the same thing. Rearrange it. The cow is never going to deliver a whale, because apparently, according to evolution, whales and cows are related some kind of way. Now, they might share some DNA, but the DNA doesn't have enough information to create something different. That's what a kind is. That's why you separate it into what a kind is. Okay? This is what we see in nature. Okay, so you want everything based in science, right? This is what we see in nature, and this is what is testable, and this is what is provable, and it's repeatable. It's so repeatable that farmers and ranchers base their whole livelihood on this. You know, they know that I got a bunch of cows out there. I'm gonna bring in a bull, and I'm gonna make more cows and bulls. They're not gonna get cows and bulls and giraffes and zebras and monkeys and whales and however you want to call it. And they're not going to get plants out of that either. Okay? So that cow or that female dog or the whale or whatever is never going to deliver a bag of seeds or a bunch of seeds and then those turn into plants. Never going to happen. Just like you're never going to make seeds that I can go plant in my garden and grow animals out of it. It's never going to happen. There's no common ancestor where everything goes back to one thing. Everything goes back to one kind, but there's a whole bunch of different kinds. Okay? That's the definition of a kind. You can't take a father and a mother DNA and mix it up and then make a different animal. The information isn't in there. Okay? So, I mean, we can... That's the argument right there. That proves evolution isn't correct. Because evolution says, if you look at the evolutionary tree, right, it says you got an amoeba. And from that amoeba, you get everything. That means in that amoeba, the DNA in that amoeba has to contain all of the DNA for all of the life that's in the tree. Because it has to start from somewhere. One, how did the information get into the amoeba? And then two, how did it separate into those trees? You can't... We can read DNA code today. So that's impossible. So this is what a definition of a kind is. It's if you take the DNA, you rearrange it any way you want, and then put it back into the mother, and then she delivers whatever, same kind. You're always going to get dog and dog, you're always going to get a dog. Bull and cow, you're always going to get a cow. You're never going to get a whale. Whale and whale, you're always going to get a whale. It doesn't have the code to be anything else. That's what a kind is. Okay, so the last note here. The Bible is completely defensible. I can defend it, and it's very provable as a historical and scientific document. I don't know where you get that information from. There's many historical locations being found that are in accordance with biblical scripture. Jesus did exist. He was crucified, and it's recorded. It's recorded in the Bible. It's also recorded by the Romans. You know, the worldwide flood is easily provable. The earth is young, and that's easily provable. That goes back to the origins of elements. Where did uranium-238 come from, or 235, right? Dinosaurs lived a few thousand years ago, which has also been proven and published, by the way. That's a whole different topic, but it helps prove that the Earth is young. Because if dinosaurs lived a couple thousand years ago, not hundreds of millions of years ago, then you're stuck on evolution. They proved that. They found DNA in dinosaur bones. Then they published it. The lady published it in a scientific article. It was peer-reviewed, and then after they figured out, hey, this kills evolution, then they tried to squash it. And then they wouldn't give her any more bones so she could keep getting DNA out of it. DNA doesn't live after a couple of thousand years. So if she's getting DNA from the bones, it's only a couple of thousand years old. Do a little research. Genetically, we can trace every living person today back to Noah's 3 sons. And the list goes on and on and on. You know, I can destroy you in a debate on the Bible after I've destroyed you on evolution, if you want to. So one debate at a time. I want your wounds to heal a little, you know, before I rip the scabs off again. So I don't have any degrees, so I'm not pretending to be, as you put it for Dr. Hovind, I'm not pretending to be a doctor. I didn't go to college. I got 2 trade schools, so I'm an airplane mechanic and I'm a commercial diver and I'm retired military. All right. But as far as colleges, didn't need to go. You, on the other hand, you spent probably $100,000 on your education, only to be shown it's wrong. So let's see who educates who here. Really hope that you want to do this debate, and maybe you can answer some of these questions and get a Nobel Prize. So I look forward to humiliating you, because it's going to be very easy. Thank you for your time. Hope everybody enjoys this. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time.